There was something about first drafts and writing and love letters that was circling around in my consciousness, and I didn't really know why. I had had a lot of anxiety about writing for years. I could speak really well and communicate very clearly once I had to say it in front of someone or even say it to myself. But then when I had to write it, there was something that was happening, and I knew that it wasn't a fluke when this disconnect between the way I said something and the way I wrote something happened not only in English, but it happened also in Spanish. It got so bad to the point where one of my professors asked me to record my papers before I wrote them. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And it was liberating at first because it helped, but then it just begged the question, like, what is going on between me saying something and me writing it? So I got into this habit of basically pumping out first drafts of papers in order to get through my assignments, because by the time my anxiety would get to the level that I could write, there wasn't much time left to write it. So the first drafts were going out, and as it turned out, my first drafts weren't that bad. Not to say that they represented the best writing, but they represented me being able to finish, because if I hadn't been strong enough to write the first draft, then it definitely wouldn't have gotten done. And so I went through writing these first drafts feeling bad and guilty about the first drafts, because I felt this sense of wanting to go through the editing process and refine and have crisp, clear language. And then I had someone who I was dating at the time to start talking about my writing. And specifically, it came up when we had gotten into an argument, and I wrote a letter to him. I suppose you would call it a love letter. And it was basically just me being honest and putting my honest thoughts on paper. And we pretty much decided that we weren't going to talk, and he called me after I sent him the letter, and the first thing he said is that no one has ever written me anything like this. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever read. And I was really surprised, because I was under the mentality that my writing was poor. My writing was poor. My writing has nothing to offer. All I can get out is the first draft, and that's it. And when we were on the phone, I will never forget him saying, have you ever considered writing as a career? Now, this guy is a beautiful writer and graduated from top schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, into all these accolades. So to hear him say that meant a lot to me. And I think that moment so many years ago was a part of the foundation of me being prepared to write Love in First Draft.